There are some players in the NFL, some high-level players in the NFL, who are playing for their job this season. It is more than just what is on the line for the 17 games. It is what are you going to be able to do with this team and in some cases in this league going forward. So let's look at the players entering the 2025 NFL season who are on the hot seat. The NFL can be a very cruel world, and sometimes your contract status means more than your ability. And so because of that, you find some players who end up playing for their jobs at times where maybe you wouldn't expect it. So right now, going to run through the 5 players that I think are on the hot seat entering the 2025 season. Number 1, I have Anthony Richardson. They added the veteran backup. Now it's Daniel Jones. But if I were a quarterback and my team went out and signed Daniel Jones, who, from all accounts, fine human, in terms of being a quarterback, not the best, and the general consensus was, oh, dude needs to be worried because they got a good one, they got an improvement in Daniel Jones, I would take a really, really long look in the mirror and be like, okay, I need to get my shit together. So hopefully that's the message that Anthony Richardson is getting. This team used a very high draft pick on him a while ago. And through injuries and inconsistent play, I think that there are some concerns around Anthony Richardson, obviously. And the talk like, okay, yeah, I had to come out of the game because I was tired at a key situation. So we put the 45-year-old Joe Flacco in there, hoping that he didn't shatter every bone in his body at the biggest part of that game. That type of thing loses a locker room very quickly, and it loses a front office very quickly. So this is a make or break season for him. He needs to look like the guy who was getting high-level quarterback buzz a season ago. He needs to look like every bit of the hype that he had around him this year, or that guy ain't going to be the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, any longer. I don't think it is incredibly expensive to cut him at the end of this season. I think it would be time for the Colts to really cut bait and move on because there are weapons around him. Jonathan Taylor is still one of the better running backs in the league, I think. I think Pittman is a very good wide receiver. He just hasn't had the dudes thrown in the ball to help him out at all. And I think Downs has really developed into a really good receiver as well. There are options there. There are weapons there. He just can't do a damn thing with them. He needs to take multiple steps forward this year to keep that job. Big John over on the Twitch chat. I have Anthony Richardson and Derek Carr in my keeper league. So Carr, at this point, yeah. We could have a conversation about David Carr, maybe keeping him over Anthony Richardson. I think, honestly, I think there's a very real chance that all 3 of the people we just talked about have the same amount of fantasy points next season. I think that there is a possibility Anthony Richardson, this is going to be hyperbolic a little bit, but there's a non-zero chance my guy's playing in the UFL or in the CFL next year. Obviously, the more likely outcome is he lands a Trey Lance type of a thing as a backup somewhere and maybe something breaks through. But this has been a disaster for him so far in Indianapolis, and the time has run out. It needs to turn around right now. Tyreek Hill is another one. He can be cut at the end of the season with just a $15 million dead cap. The Denver Broncos would pop champagne and just weep tears of joy if they only had $15 million of dead cap taken up. $15 million in this NFL, that don't mean shit. We are a couple years away from kickers making that. So to lose $15 million cutting a guy who, getting up there in age, has already talked about maybe not wanting to play at an advanced age anyway, and also came into your organization based off of some less than awesome legal issues, and then added to those in this offseason, all of that tied together with the fact that this offense was wildly ineffective, even with him in the lineup last year. I think that Tyreek Hill needs to look like Tyreek Hill in capital letters to keep an opportunity with the Miami Dolphins next year. And honestly, I would be surprised if he is a Dolphin going into next season, but he kind of needs to justify the headache, I think, a little bit more than he did in the last season, and certainly more than he did in the offseason. We do have a few more, including, haven't forgot about the folks on the defensive side. This isn't just a fantasy football thing. A couple defensive guys out there as well. I'm going to get to those in just a second, but first, want to remind you that you can support Couch Potato Diary and my cat's insatiable treat desire with a tip. There is a link in the description of every video, every podcast that we put out, also in the panels on Twitch and Kick. Certainly not expected, the furthest thing from a requirement, but would be greatly appreciated if you would just head over to the tip. But honestly, just you guys watching is more than enough for me. But it's my cat who's really the one pushing for a lot of this. All right, next in the players on the hot seat is Mark Andrews. He is a free agent at the end of the season. His replacement already had a good year last year. Now, he is not going to be necessarily a hindrance for Mark Andrews in the upcoming season with some injury problems for Isaiah Likely. Andrews needs to remind everyone that he is one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. This is a really, really good player, I still think. He obviously had a tricky offseason last year, just based off of, car crashes and whatnot. So I think not having to deal with that, I presume, this year is going to be a help for him. And this Baltimore team has high expectations. Last year, what do we remember about Andrews? It is fumbling at a very bad time in a playoff game and his backup having a monster day on the first night of the season. That can't be the memory this year for Mark Andrews, or he is out of one of the best offenses in football and is going to be looking for another job very quickly. A couple on the defensive side. Kevin Byard with Chicago. He is also a free agent at the end of the year. He was good last year, but they're going to need some money on the offensive line. And, look, if Madden 06 is any indication, you can draft safeties all you want. So, that maybe not the best example, but you can draft a replacement for him as a defensive back. They are going to need that money on the offensive side. This is a good defense, don't get me wrong, and a pretty good football team. It's one that I would probably want to hang around on if I were him. So I think that he is someone who is playing for his job this season. And another one is Marshon Lattimore. He can be cut for free after this season. He's making $18 million. I still think there is a good cornerback there. I don't think there's an $18 million cornerback there at all. So I think Washington, the Commanders have the opportunity to free up a lot of cap space by getting that guy out the door. I would be surprised if they didn't. It is just a matter of now, what does your next contract look like? That is what Marshon Lattimore is playing for in the upcoming season. So, while everyone is chasing that Super Bowl championship, a few players have a little bit more on their plate than some others do, and we just broke down a few of them there. Let me know if you're watching this, whether it's live or after the fact, in the comments. What do you think? Anyone else who you think is playing for their job in the upcoming season? And what should Big John do at quarterback? Is it time to take a dip into the waiver wire and find Rich Gannon instead of Derek Carr and Anthony Richardson? Again, all three of them could have the same amount of fantasy points next season. I just, it makes you wonder, makes you think, really. So let us know in the comment section below. Obviously, people here for a lot of different things. People out in Calgary know me for a few things. Cats, hitting my head a lot, and professional wrestling. And if you are here mainly for the wrestling content and just kind of sit through the rest of the stuff, there's a new wrestling podcast from Couch Potato Diary that is for you. It is called The Living Room Lariat. It is going to have all the wrestling content from Couch Potato Diary with some exclusives that aren't available on the flagship podcast. That one is out there wherever you get your podcasts.